Corinne, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to dive into your journey, your story, how you're helping so many women in their weight loss journey. And I think it's absolutely inspiring getting to hear your story. But where I want to start is who is Corinne today? And then we'll break down how you got there.
Oh, God, that's a good question. I would say like normal. I know that sounds crazy, but I remember like when I wanted to lose weight, thinking about, like what's a thin person like? What is it that they do? And it really is, I think, what I am today. I love to work out. I don't love going. So I feel like that's pretty normal. Like I work on pull-ups, but there's not a day that I go to the gym where I am not bitching, moaning, and griping. I literally will be talking to my best friend on the way, telling her, I hate this. I don't, I wish I had the day off, blah, blah. I want to eat foods like everybody else, but I don't feel controlled by them anymore. Like it's not something that like plagues me. I don't have tons of food noise, but that doesn't mean I don't have food noise. Mine's like when I think about it on a scale of 1 to 10, I think mine's like at a 3, whereas I used to live at a 10. So I feel like I'm just normal. I'm a chick who I ordered a walking pad today because I get about 2,000 steps a day. Like I'm like everybody else, it's like just because I lost weight doesn't mean that I'm just, out there doing all the things. I was like, ugh, I gotta order a walking pad. I had handyman come and move a walking desk downstairs so that I could just get off my ass. I was telling my friend, I said, girl, there's not going to be anything sexy at 80 because I sat around in my 50s and like ruined my back and hips from just not getting enough steps. So, I just think I'm a normal person. I'm not fancy. I don't do hardcore things. I really stayed true to my promise when I decided to lose weight that I was never going to do anything that I wasn't willing to do for the rest of my life. And so as I started, that was little things. They grew, and I still to this day won't do anything to keep my weight off that I'm not willing to do for the rest of my life. So, I just feel like I'm the definition of normal, not extraordinary, but also not in the duder all the time either.
Yeah, no, for sure. And we'll get into all this stuff, but I just want to acknowledge that I love your approach because especially in the weight loss space, the fitness space, it's convoluted with all these hacks and this, that, and the other thing. And I'm sure we'll get into all the peptides and the GLP-1s and all that crazy stuff. But you're very much like, no, just keep it simple. If you overcomplicate things, you're not going to reach your goal. You're going to overwhelm yourself. You're going to do all this stuff. But I want to go to the idea of like when you were 100 pounds heavier. So acknowledge the fact that you personally lost 100 pounds before you even began this journey of helping other people do this. Take me back to that moment where you finally made the decision that this needs to stop.
Yeah, that was a rough day. Unfortunately, I'm like most women that when I finally decided to do it, it wasn't like a hallelujah and the heavens opened and I had an epiphany. It was crying on the couch. It was 10 o'clock in the morning, and I know because the Price is Right was coming on, and in Nashville, 10 a.m. has always been when Price is Right comes on. And my son, he was a year old at the time, he was playing in the floor. Now, I'd always been overweight. Since the age of 9 up, I was overweight. And when I was growing up, my mama was like 17 when she had me, 19 when she had my brother, divorced by 20. So we were broke. My mom worked 2 and 3 jobs our entire life. And she never could play with us. Always too tired. Like I remember hearing that 1,000 times. And I swore, just like most kids, just pissed because you just think she's being lazy or whatever. I was like, I will never do that when I become a mother. Well, I'm like laying on the couch one day. He's a year old. He comes over to play with a ball, and I'm laid out. And I say, Mommy's too tired to play. And I literally started crying. It was such a moment for me. And of course, I cried the rest of the day. And my husband came home from work, sitting there, swelled up and all the things. And I just looked at him and I said, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to figure this out. Can't keep living like this. So I just hit that like moment of shame, feeling like I was becoming the very person. I love my mother, but I never wanted to be like her. I wanted to be someone different. And I also had a tremendous fear that my son would grow up overweight like me and that he would be bullied and he would be ostracized. And I knew in my heart, if I didn't change, I was going to put him in a position to have the same like treatment that I did. And so I literally just, I mean, I slept on it. The next day I just woke up and did one new thing. There was, a lot of women will run out and, go join a program and start a diet and do all the things. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, I'm always trying to get people to join my program. But I didn't do that because I just knew nothing out there was going to work for me. I tried too many of them that I was going to have to come up with Corinne's version. And it literally started with, I'm not doing anything that I won't do for the rest of my life. So even if it has to be small, if it has to feel not good enough, if I have to sit and be afraid it won't work, that's the price to pay, because I know that if I start too hard, I will flame out. And so that's what I did. And then I made one other promise. Well, actually two. The next promise was every day that I woke up, I had a goal to do one thing a little bit better than the day before. It did not have to be big. I just needed to try something. And then if I couldn't do it, I would save it for later. So that was like another big part of it, was like, all right, maybe I'm not ready for it, but that doesn't mean we quit. And it doesn't mean we don't ever try it again. It just means right now I'm not ready for it. And then the other thing is I made a promise to myself that I didn't give a fuck what happened. I wasn't quitting ever again. And if it took me 30 years to lose weight, it would take me 30 years to lose weight. But I was not quitting, because I also knew I was the type of person who gave up too easily. So I just promised myself, we're just not quitting this time. And we'll keep going until we figure it out. So that was it. That was the magic sauce.
Yeah. And so what was the first thing that you committed to? You're like, I can do this, for the rest of my life.
A 15-minute walk. That was literally the first thing I did. My son we didn't know this at the time, but he has autism. And that first year was a humdinger. And so, I spent my entire life emotionally eating. I mean, that was about all I knew, was if I had a bad day, if I was tired, feeling unappreciated, worried about something, you just ate. And I wasn't ready to give up my food yet. And so I knew that I could walk every day and that I needed to walk every day. He was not one to go, like I couldn't put him in a stroller. I was not blessed with a child that you could take out for long walks. He cried the whole time and I was too fat to carry him the whole way. So I told my husband that I wanted to get a membership at the Y, and that when he would come home at night, I was going to go to the Y and I was going to walk on the treadmill. And it was not too far from our house. And he was like, that's fine. He's like, what? He loved me. He always supported me, and he always believed in me before I did. And he just said, whatever you need to do, if you think it's going to help you, let me help you. Because I was used to doing everything on my own, like my single mother.
Yeah.
And just took him up on it and was like, all right, I'm going to leave, even though he had worked all day. And I'm going to tell you, it was really, I had to learn how to not feel guilty over it, because I would leave feeling so guilty that he had worked all day. And then now I was just like, here's the baby. And I was running out the door. But, and that's all I did. And I remember the first day I went to that that 15-minute walk kicked my butt. I mean, I was not even walking fast, but I made my commitment that I was going to walk 15 minutes every day. Some days I did more, and some days it was just 15 minutes. If I couldn't go to the Y, I would tell him I'm going to go outside, and I'm going to, like, if I have to march around the parking lot, we lived in a condo. I was like, I'll do that. But I knew that even if I had to walk around my house, that 15 minutes a day is something that I could literally do. And I knew it would be good for me. And it was more about that first step for me was figuring out, what did Corinne need? Not so much, how am I going to lose weight? I needed time away from my kid. I needed to get moving again a little bit, because I wasn't moving much. And it just seemed my first logical step.
Yeah, I love the 15-minute rule. Like, something I talk about with my mastermind all the time, even in business, is like, look, we all have those things we don't want to do. Like it's been on
Yeah.
the to-do list for 3 weeks. It could be the workout, it could be the big project, it could be whatever. Just sit down for 15 minutes or go do the workout for 15 minutes. And at the 15-minute mark, if you want to stop, you can stop. But a lot of
Right.
times what you do is you find yourself going a little bit further, right? Oh,
Oh,
it
yeah.
wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. But a word that keeps coming up in my head as you're telling your story is the word grace. You talked about how I would try something and if I couldn't do it, I'd shelf it for later. A lot of
Mhm.
people would beat themselves up and they would go, I can't
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
I'm a loser. I'm going to be like this forever. How did you continue to give yourself grace as you were doing those things, knowing that, hey, maybe one day I can take that off the shelf and try again?
Yeah, it was not easy. And it wasn't as easy as it even sounds when I say it. That is what I did. But if I had to like draw it on a piece of paper or outline the process, it was mess up, like this thing wouldn't work, think you're a loser, beat self up, remind myself I don't do that anymore. That's what's all like. I remember one day saying, like, Corinne, we're not talking like this to ourselves. That is the reason why you always quit. So, like, I just drew a line in the sand that said, when basically the inner critic, when this voice starts up, we come in and we talk to ourselves like this. I now describe it like, when you look back, you can kind of see the magic and what all happened. But in the moment, I don't know how it happened because I did zero self development back in the day.
Yeah.
But as I've read books over the years, I'm like, man, I was like somehow absorbing it through the air and the water. I don't know. It was just coming to me. But if I had to describe it, it was like I made sure that my inner critic and the version of me that I wanted to become became friends. It wasn't like there was an inner critic and the woman I wanted to be were warring on the inside. Like my future self, let's just call her that. She wasn't yelling at the inner critic. She wasn't like doing that. Now, sometimes she was stern with her, like, hey, we're not talking to ourselves like that. That is why we always quit. And then sometimes she was just really nice. And she just said, I know you think that a lot. And we're just going to keep going because we know that if we quit, it's just going to be worse. We already know what quitting looks like. We already know what that life looks like. And you said you didn't want that life anymore. And so there was a lot of time it was that. And then I just made an agreement that future self voice was the winner.
Mm.
Because I knew that my self talk, like I don't know if you want to call it a meta level, I knew it was terrible. I knew that it was broken. I knew that it was not good. I didn't think that it was all just true. Like I always tell my clients, there's a difference between something feeling true and something being true. And at some point I realized, like, oh my God, you have thought for so long all this stuff was true. It just feels really real. And so I did a lot of like knowing that just because my inner critic's a bitch, it doesn't mean she's right.
Yeah.
It just means she's very used to talking to me this way. And again, like I'm always shocked when I retell this stuff. I don't get to tell my story very often, so thank you.
Of
But
course.
I literally read no self-development. When I look back and now that I do so much stuff and I'm a coach, I'm like, how did I make it through the first half of my life? Never opening a book,
Yeah,
you know?
it's unbelievable. Actually, a lot of what you're saying, number one, the inner critic will always be there, no matter what you do, right? Like I've accomplished amazing things. You're doing incredible things, and we still have that inner voice that goes, "Who are you? Like, who do you think
Right.
you are?" Right? And it's about quieting that voice as best you can. I have a friend named Sarah Centrella who just recently wrote a book. I think it's her fifth book, called "Think It," and she talks about this exact thing. And she's like, "I want you to picture these thoughts are like tennis balls flying at you, and your job is to hit that tennis ball back instead of absorbing it."
Yeah.
And it's exactly what you were doing without having the book that was teaching you how
Yes.
to do this kind of thing, and it's just such a fascinating thing. Now, you talked a little bit about how you were emotionally eating. I think a lot of people don't talk about food in a way that it's like an addiction. Food is an addiction. It's a numbing mechanism for so many people, just like alcohol, drugs, sex, whatever. They use food for that, and it becomes a detriment to their life. You said at first, I knew I didn't want to let go of the food, at least right away. What did that look like when you started to reshape what you were putting in your body?
So for me, it was the very first thing is I just made some small changes. I didn't like cut out the foods that I loved, but I started like I'll give you an example. when my husband would take the baby for the rest of the night, I would eat ice cream on the couch because he would come home, we'd have dinner and whatnot. And then he liked to take Logan upstairs to give him a bath because that was the only time he really got to spend with him. And I mean, I would just count down the seconds until that would happen. And the second they'd go upstairs, I was head first in a half a gallon of ice cream. Mm. And it was because I felt guilty. And like for sitting there and letting him take care of it, even though he wanted to do it, but I felt so lazy. I felt so guilty. And then it would just come crushing down on me, like all of I didn't like how my life was going at the time. I felt like a terrible mother because I'm going to be real honest. My child was not easy. I spent so many days questioning, why did we have a kid? Like it was, and then I felt awful for having thoughts like that. And so it would really hit me at night. So I had to eat. And I ate so I didn't have to feel bad. And so for me, when it first started, in terms of changing, I had to make the realization that ice cream was the only thing not helping me feel so bad. So I needed to figure out a new way to not feel bad. Like I needed to start figuring out but my first epiphany was literally I sat down with my husband and I asked him, now tell me what your real opinion is. Do you think I'm lazy and selfish because you have to take care of Logan every night? And he was like, no. Wow. And he told me, he's like, for the 100th time, I'm going to tell you right now, I want to do it. And so it dawned on me, I have got to stop feeling guilty about something that's inherently not true now. So sometimes it was conversations. I had to prove to myself that some of the things that I was thinking and feeling just literally was shit I made up. And then sometimes there was nobody that could give me permission to feel okay about things or to change my opinion about things. I had to do it. And so the way I always like to describe it for me was until I fixed what food was doing for me, it was my coping mechanism. If I didn't have another way to cope, or I didn't have an epiphany to where I could fulfill a need for myself, taking the food away just threw me into pain and misery. And that's why so many women, when they're trying to do diets, they can be good for a little bit, but if food is really what you do to end the day, to relieve your stress, to not feel so anxious, to not yell at people. A lot of my women, they call themselves angry eaters. It's like, I shove a ding dong in, otherwise I'm going to be yelling at somebody. So if you go on a diet and they say they give you the calories and they change your macros and they take away certain foods and stuff like that, they've literally also said, and the way you relax, the way you love yourself, the only break you ever get, all that stuff, we've also taken that away. And they can only white knuckle through that part. It's not white knuckling through the food. It's killing them. It's white knuckling through misery. And so I had to start figuring out all the places where I was emotionally eating, fix why I was emotionally eating. And then weight loss got real easy because there was no trigger anymore. Then all I had to do was just get better foods in my body. But then it felt simple to do. It felt like I wanted to do it finally instead of I was making myself do it.
Yeah.
So that's how it changed for me.
Yeah. Where do you think these thoughts came from? I look at a lot of things, like the things we do as adults. I always very often check in with little Justin and I go, why are you like this? Why are you triggered in this moment? Why'd you have that one more drink? Why'd you do this? Right. And it a lot of times goes back to childhood, not always, but a lot of times, and the things we went through. Why do you feel you went to food as a coping mechanism? Where did that really begin for you? Because you said you've been overweight your whole life.
Yeah. Well, when I was before the age of 9, we lived in Alabama, and my parents were divorced at 20, but they were like most kids, especially back in the 70s and 80s, they were on and off again all the time. And so very often we didn't have a place to live because my mama was leaving my daddy. And we were sleeping in hotels, and she was really poor. And, my dad and I have a decent relationship now, but he was a kid. He was younger than her when I was born, and he never paid child support.
Wow.
And never helped us and barely saw us growing up. So we had a lot of food insecurity at first. So I remember being at home and being hungry. I remember my mom taking us to buffets and saying, eat all you can. I don't know when the next meal will be. I remember she worked at a hotel at night and she would get one meal a day. So she would get the meal and she would let my brother and I eat first and then she would eat last.
Wow.
Like that was our life. And especially if we weren't in school where we could get one meal a day, we were literally like just a lot of food insecurity. Well, cut to when I was 9. We moved to Nashville for a better life, move in with my grandparents. My grandfather cooked me hamburgers for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. God love him. But they fed us and I just ballooned. And there was no guardrails. And I think that they just felt bad for us. So they just, fed us all the time. And then I started getting bullied in school. And a lot of mine comes from, and I love my grandfather to death. I know he was not trying to do anything, but I think a lot of the reasons why I coped with food, especially when I felt bad about myself, was I'd get bullied at school all day long. And my grandfather would take me to, he called it the little store, which was just a convenience store. And he would say, just get whatever you want, chips, candy, Cokes, whatever. And it would be the first time every day that I would feel good. And I'd eat. And then my mom had weight problems. And so she and I did Weight Watchers. And then the second she was off, I was off my diet. Like there's a million things. And just, being a product of the 80s and the early 90s, I mean, yeah, we were just bombarded with terrible messaging around diets. And I had my best friend in high school was an anorexic. I remember just thinking, I wish I could just not eat like her. Like that was my dream, was to just starve and it not be a problem. And she was a legit she had to go hospitalized. And I just thought she had a better problem than me, so I think it's just a lot of stuff. It's just between the way that I was raised and, food really being a source of comfort, the way that, like for my family, because my mom worked so much, going to a buffet where we could eat all we want was also the only time we connected, the only time we talked. It was very normalized to just eat until you're literally stuffed. That started feeling like normal. That's how you should eat. So even when we weren't broke, we always ate until we were stuffed to our gills, and I wasn't athletic. My brother was high metabolism. He was always just about as, thin as this pin. And I was right the opposite. Everything stored on me. So just a lot of things. But I don't ever look back and I always tell my clients that if it feels useful to go back to figure, like if you're just plagued with, I need to know why this happened, then I think it's good to go back and look for explanation so that you feel a sense of relief that it's reasonable why your relationship with food is like it is. But some women, they can't do that. They go back and then they just get angry and stuff like that. And I'm like, it's not helpful to you today. Right. It's like, if it only makes you feel broken, then we don't worry about that stuff. But for me, for a long time, I wanted to know where it all started because I just became very curious.
Yeah.
And I knew it would help other people if I could help them look back. But I'm always like a fine line with my clients. I'm always like, if you find that somebody taught you this, are you likely to feel relieved or angry? And if they say angry, I'm like, we are wasting our time. That's only going to slow you down now. It doesn't because at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter where it started. It matters like, do you want it now? And what do you want for yourself going forward? Because you could never know how things start and do just fine fixing what's current for you today and how you're doing it today.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier how your food noise went from a 10 and now it's like a 3, right? I'm a normal person. I'm living my life normal now. How were you able to do that? I think that's probably the hardest thing for most people struggling with food is that food noise, and they don't know how to turn it off. So they just continue to turn it off by actually eating the food. How do you dial that back?
It's going to doing all that emotional work, all that like figuring out, like if I'm eating because I was just working with a client, and she's a people pleaser. Bad. I mean, just like is always agreeing to do things and hating having to follow through. So she spends a lot of her life eating. Like she'll agree to do things that involve a lot of people, and she's a complete introvert. So she's just like eating at the party, eating while she's getting everything ready, eating on the way there because she's worried about the conversations and stuff like that. She's going to have a lot of food noise because she's a people pleaser. Yeah. Not because there's going to be food at the party, not because she just loves chips. Like that's not like food noise presents like it's good, it's free, it's these things, but it's the driver of food. Like what's turning up your dial? And so like with her, we've been working a lot on how do you stop believing that if you say no to people that you're not a bitch, you're not selfish, or you're not letting people down and they're going to be angry. Like how do we do that? Because until that breaks, she's going to say yes versus being a bitch. And she'll even say yes if she knows it means that she'll eat her face off for 2 weeks leading up to it. So when you fix those root causes, that dial automatically turns down. We all have food noise. Normal eaters have food noise, but they're living somewhere between like a 1 and a 4. They're not living at the loud levels. They're like my father-in-law is a good example. Funny dude, always been thin, whatever. Loves food. Oh, it's a pizza restaurant. I mean, dude loves food. And whenever we have like a family gathering, I mean, at breakfast, he and I are wargaming what's for dinner. I mean, he just starts immediately like, all right, well, now we're eating pancakes. Like, what do you think you're going to want for lunch? What do you think we should have for dinner? You know, and like he's always doing all this planning. But his food love comes from love. So his is like that type of thinking is like a 3 or a 4. When you have a lot of emotional stuff, that's going to feel like a 9 or 10. So it's just like everybody has it. It's just it's like once I think it gets about a 5, it starts transcending from what I call just normal, fun thinking about food. Normal, I would love to have that. Maybe I shouldn't today kind of stuff too. Oh my God, I can't quit thinking about it. You know, I should eat this. It's so unfair if I don't have it. What if I don't get it anymore? Like that's when it becomes the problem.
Yeah, that's I've always wondered those people who love food that much and they've stayed skinny their whole life. I'm like, what's the secret here? And that's a great example. The food noise isn't all the time. That's tied to the small amount of times that family's together or he's hosting something or whatever. And that's just such a great example as to how it can be different for every single person. So when did this turn, you losing all this weight turn into a business? You now run a multi-7-figure business helping women build the life that they want and all that stuff in between. How did it go from just myself to now it's hundreds or thousands of women that I'm helping get through this?
So in 2007, I think did I tell you this story? Or did I just tell this on another call about my jeans? Call. Okay. I'm just like, I'm rolling into calls and I'm like, I don't want to bore you. But so it took me about 18 months to lose my weight. So I started in 2005. In 2007, February of 2007, I decided I was going to help people. And it was because I was standing in the bedroom one day and I was tucking my shirt in. And if you've ever, like every woman that's ever had a weight problem knows that at a certain point, you don't tuck your shirt in anymore, or you're just really drawing attention to your body. So I was always baggy shirts, baggy pants. Well, I'd lost 100 pounds. I was ready to like show it off. And I was looking in the mirror. My husband walks in and I'm just grinning from ear to ear. And he's like, why are you so happy? Like, not that I was always resting bitch face, but I looked, more happy than usual. And I started crying. And I told him, I said, because I am happy. And I said, most women don't feel like this. And I knew it. I'd been around too many women my entire life who did not feel happy day to day, and they were eating because of it. And I felt like, I remember telling him, I think I finally actually, not only have I lost weight, I really think I'm going to keep it off. And I think I figured out how to be happy too, and not stressed that I'm going to regain it. So I knew like something had changed. And I just looked at him and I said, I'm going to help women. It's the first time I'd said it out loud. And I was like, I'm going to figure, like, just like I figured out my weight, I told him, I was like, I'm going to figure out how I can help women lose weight. And it took me a long time to get to this level. The first like 10 years, I was like playing Barbie dream store business. I mean, like just, I mean, I was doing it, but I didn't even know that a woman could make any kind of money. Like I'd never been exposed to that. My mama always just worked for somebody and had to work long hours. So it didn't click to me that, and of course this is back in the day. This is when the internet wasn't rife with business opportunities and influencers and stuff. We didn't even have, I think basically MySpace was just coming out.
Yeah.
And so I just went onto the Weight Watchers message boards. I didn't even lose weight with Weight Watchers, but I knew that there were women talking about weight on there. And I was going to start talking to them. And I got a little cult following. They started following my blog. And I started emailing them. And one day I just looked at Chris. I said, I'm going to send the email tonight. I'm going to ask if anybody wants me to help them lose weight. And I was like, how do I take money? And he said, well, there's something called PayPal.
Yeah.
Like I hadn't even heard of it.
The buy now button.
Yes. I put up a PayPal link and I was like, I will email you the link. And that's how it started. And then it just grew over the years. And then about 2015, I got officially certified in like life coaching and weight coaching. And I had started listening to someone online and the way that she was teaching how our brain works, I was like, this is how I did it. She's got a formula for all this. This is amazing. So I got certified by her and during the week, we had to spend 8 days together. She came up to me one day. I was the only one in there that had any kind of a business period that, was going to use this. Everybody was starting one. I already had one. And she was like, well, how much money are you making? I was like, I don't know, like $30,000 a year. And I was so proud of it. Yeah. And she looked at me and she said, that's ridiculous. I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, I have listened to you all week. You should be making a lot more money. She's like, you just don't know how. She's like, you should be at least making and this was in her early days. And she's like, you should at least be making 100K by the end of this year. And it was the first woman and person that had ever told me that you decide how much money you want to make and you make a plan to get there. And I was like, well, it's kind of how you do weight loss. You decide how much weight you want to lose, you plan to get there. And I don't know, I just, after that, it lit a fire into my ass. I didn't realize that I could have a bigger impact. And I started figuring that out. And then now here we are in 2026. So
yeah, what an incredible journey. And I think sometimes we need that person who sees something in us that we didn't even know was possible. And that was that moment for you to be like, oh, you could do this, right? We talked about how our common connections, Roberto, I hired him in 2020 as my coach when I lost 75% of my income because the world shut down. And I was like, dude, I need to make money or I need to get a job and I don't want to get a job. And I hired him. And the reason I hired him is because on our sales call, discovery call or whatever, and I had known him at this point for a year. He's like, well, what do you want to do? Like, what do you want to make money doing? And I go, I just want to make money being me. And he was like the first person who didn't laugh at that idea as a preposterous thing. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll hire you because you didn't laugh at me and then we'll figure out how to do this. Right. And I just reworked my business from that standpoint, was able to recover. And it's just that one moment of who sees something in you that nobody else sees. Exactly. And what a beautiful moment that is. And so obviously as you're going through all this and you're beginning to help more and more women, is there ever a moment where, and I'll explain why I'm asking this question, is there ever a moment where you have a bit of, and I hate this word because it's overused, but a bit of imposter syndrome? Because I interviewed a guy named BJ Gador years ago on the podcast, and he's been on the cover of Men's Health many times. He was ahead of their whatever for a long time. Super, he's 5% body fat, ripped, but he was a fat kid. And he goes, Justin, he goes, I was in the best shape of my life the last time I was on the cover and I was in a Speedo, and I still felt like the fat 16-year-old. He's frozen in time. Is there ever a moment like that for you? And if not, how can we make sure we don't continue to tell ourselves that story?
I mean, I think I have a lot of imposter syndrome a lot. I think it's very normal. I think our mind is always trying to figure out who are we. And it will always err on the side of less than what you are capable of, just to just to protect you, if nothing else. Like I always tell people, like our brains act like assholes with the best of intentions. Like it's just like, well, I don't want you to get your hopes up because I know how you'll feel. So it will keep our hopes down. You know, even though when our hopes are down, we don't feel great, but it's like, but you would be devastated if I didn't do this. So for me, I think the biggest time that it actually happens is one right now is I have a big event every year for my members, and 500 of them come in person, and usually over 1,000 of them come virtually. I mean, every year, right before that event, I am all up in my head about what I look like. I mean, I don't care if I look great, and I don't care how much, journaling, and everybody is always like, nobody ever walks up and goes like, wow, you're so ugly in person. It's not like anybody ever says that. But I mean, it like every year it's very real. And I almost always, when I come out on stage, cry. I always tell them, let's get the tears out of the way. I bawl for about 30 seconds and then we start the show, because coming out, it's just like every bit of that imposter syndrome hits all at once. And I'm a good crier. And if I can cry, I feel cleansed. And I just told them a long time ago, I'm going to quit apologizing for crying when I come out on stage. I'm just going to do it. We're going to get on with things. Haven't then, especially, probably like we go to Vegas a lot in the summer and we go to the pool. And so I spend a lot of time in a bikini. And I have still got like, I've had some surgeries to try to fix loose skin, but I still have quite a bit of loose skin, especially on my legs. That first day we go to the pool, I'm in my head a lot. I do not feel like somebody who helps women have amazing body image and lose weight and change their life. I feel like, a frumpy ass 50-year-old woman, going to the day club where the kids are. So, I mean, I think I'm just like everybody. I think the big thing is I don't know that any of us ever really get over that stuff, as much as some of us get really good at handling the moments we're in. And I think that's kind of what I'm good at. And what I try to help my women with is we're probably never going to get rid of negative body image and being hard on ourselves. Like whatever your, special little poison is on the inside for your inner critic, it just does. It's relentless. It like literally feels like you can't kill me. You need me too much. Like it just, it's doing you a solid. And if it's not going away, I always tell people, instead of us working hard to make it go away, let's just get amazing at handling it. Because I'm just really good at feeling insecure for a little bit and then knowing it's normal and then be like, and the show has to go on. I get good at like, I want to go to the pool with my husband during the summer. I don't want to stay in Nashville because I'm ashamed of my legs. So I'm like, I'm going to show up. And that first day, every time we go, it's going to feel like ass. But I'm going to go because I have survived every time and I've had a damn good time afterward. I just have to get through that part, And so I've just gotten really good at those things. And I think that's what most of us need to do. Mm-hmm. But I think imposter syndrome is normal. If you're doing, the people who don't have imposter syndrome are the people who aren't doing big things.
Yeah.
If you're not doing big things with your life, you're never going to be triggered to feel insecure. If the people that feel usually the most insecure most of the time are the people who are like striving to change, who are trying to do things that their current self doesn't think they can do. And I just don't think that's a bad thing. I think we want to be feeling on the cusp of vomit and doubt and fear and stuff more often than we allow ourselves. Otherwise, we'll never get to where we want to go.
Yeah, I mean, every time I do anything new in business, I have that like, who are you kind of thought process. When I launched my mastermind 3.5 years ago, I was like, who do you think you are? Nobody's going to join this thing, and I'm like, well, I'm going to try anyway, and we're going to show up, and now I feel very confident in that space, right? I'm launching a new type of event in January. There's some imposter syndrome around that, like who's going to come to that, right? And like this whole crazy idea of everything, and it's so true. Like it is the people doing big things, stepping outside of their comfort zone. If you're the person who just stays in the safe space forever, you're never going to have that. I remember I reached out to somebody I knew, and I was like, "Hey, man, are you coming to my event?" And he goes, "No, I just go to my event all the time," which is like he works for an organization and he's one of the top people. And he's like, "That's where I get my stuff." I go, "You don't get your stuff other than your flowers when you go there. Like, it's not an uncomfortable room for you to be in. So there's no
Right.
imposter syndrome there." So it's fascinating to think about it from that standpoint. But I want to ask you a question I ask every single person on the show.
Yeah.
It's a two-part question. The first part is, what is your definition of success? And the second part is, what are three things you do every single day to ensure that success for yourself?
What is my definition of success? It's probably really simple. It's like, am I proud of myself? It is, it means a lot to me to be proud of myself. I spent so many years not being proud of myself. So I know that when I cry almost all the time, so you just have to
I'm good with it.
welcome to the interviewing, Corinne. I don't know that I've ever done a podcast where I didn't start crying somewhere. But um, anytime I'm feeling ashamed or whatever, I usually know I'm not pushing myself hard enough. Like, I don't usually feel shame unless I am backing off, because I know the kind of person I am. I am the kind of person who wants to be pushing. I'm a firstborn adult daughter who practically raised her own mother, and drive and determination and things like that. Like, every test I've ever taken always puts like all of that at top. It's always like achievement, competition, like hardcore. When I start feeling shame, I know that I'm hiding because I'm afraid of something. So to me, success is more about, can I like lay my head down at night and feel proud of myself? Like, I'm proud of my marriage. I am proud of the relationship I have with my child. We don't have an easy one. I have to work at it because we have zero in common. I'm really proud of how I take care of like my whole family. Like, my mother, I take care of my mother. I take care of my brother, my niece. I take care of everybody. I'm very proud of my business. I feel like I run it with tons of integrity. I take care of them as if they are my family. And that to me is like success. It's to me, it's not like accomplishments as much, and it's not like money. Like, a lot of people, and I don't have any, like, anybody that defines their success that way, have no problems with that. It's just, for me, having a sense of like integrity and pride with myself is the most important. And I guess the three ways I ensure
Three things you
success
do every
day.
single day to ensure success for yourself.
The first one is I do some type of planning every single day. It is very rare that I don't sit down. I have my own little planner. I use Good Notes in my in my iPad, and you will see me every single day deciding what I will be doing that day. I don't just like it's. I think a lot of people always have a running to-do list, and they have like all these things that they think they should be doing. And I think there's room for that stuff, but I don't ever spend a day of my life doing all the shoulds. I actually make time to review what I'm doing today and tie it back to things that are important to me. So if it's a business goal or whatever it is, I mean, I've got to have something on the list every day that connects to that. Otherwise, why bother?
Yeah.
That just sucks. Probably the other thing is, I talk to my best friend almost every single day. It is very rare the two of us don't talk. We use an app called Marco Polo. I mean, I could probably
My
count on.
wife and her best friend who lives out in Seattle are constantly on Marco Polo. I'll like walk upstairs where her office is. I'll be like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "I was sending a message to Natalie." So, but
Well,
like,
that's
this is
what
a
we
new
do.
app to me. I just found out about it a couple months ago.
Oh my God, we've been using it for years. If somebody would go through our Marco, oh my God, I would love to just transcribe every Marco Polo. It's probably full of nonsense, but I talk to her every day. And I don't feel like I could be successful if I didn't have one person outside of my husband. Like, my husband's not my person to talk to about my random bullshit. Like, he's the person I go to when we have an amazing marriage. So, and we also work together, but my Jane, my bestie, is who I talk to about all things that would overwhelm my husband.
Yeah.
She loves it. He would just be like, again, seriously, we're not over this yet. So I think having somebody in your life that you can connect with every single day is really important. Gosh, something probably, I'm maniacal about getting my sleep. That's probably the other thing I will say. When my son was little, I know I keep bringing it back to my son, but boy, did he teach me a lot of life lessons.
Yeah.
For the first 18 months, that child did not sleep through the night and he was waking 5 to 6 times. And so it about destroyed my mental health. I always had problems with depression. I never talk, well, I've talked about it several times, but I haven't talked about it here. I attempted suicide at 17. I had a really rough time during those years and was up and down in depression throughout my 20s. I think when he was born, I hit postpartum. I just never got diagnosed. Had a little bit more tougher time again in my 30s while he was going through, once we got him diagnosed, and there was a lot that went on there. It was really hard for me. And so when I don't sleep, it wrecks everything, including my ability to stay just emotionally grounded. And I prioritize it. I mean, I'm an old lady who goes to bed. I mean, most nights I'm sound asleep by 8 o'clock.
Wow.
Like if I can eat dinner at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it's a great day. I'm just like, when are we done for the day? I want to eat dinner because I want to be asleep by 8. So I guard sleep really hardcore.
What time do you wake up?
It depends. I don't set an alarm anymore because I run my own business. I don't have to, but yeah, I mean, sometimes I wake up at 4 and then sometimes I wake up at 6. So I think it just really depends on when I have to get up to go to the bathroom. If I have to get up to go to the bathroom at 3:30, I'll sleep till 6. If I get up around 1 or 2, I usually will wake up around 4:30. And I just start my day. I'm the kind of person who starts with work. I make a cup of coffee. I immediately get to planning. I like to have a good work session. And then I close it. I usually hit the gym between 7 and 8 o'clock in the morning so I can come home, shower. And then I usually start like where I have to be on camera in meetings or anything. That doesn't start till 10. And I only do that 2 days a week. And all the other days, I come back home. I get in a comfy position, usually with a cat next to me, and I just start working. And that's how I work. And I work in peace. I'm a very focused person when I work.
Yeah.
But I enjoy my work. I think that makes it easy to focus. I get overwhelmed sometimes, but I usually go for a Marco Polo walk and that fixes it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Marco Polo to me with Jane is like an oral journaling session. And I think that's why for my success, that's so important is because sometimes I actually journal and like work through things. But a lot of times I can talk to my best friend. She never has to give me any advice. I can just talk to her and say it out loud and work through it. And so I do a lot of that. So those are the 3 things. I mean, I think that's about it. It's nothing fancy.
I love it. Shout out to Jane. Shout out to
Yes.
Jane and all
I
the
want the child to
support.
listen to this and be like, oh my God, I talked about you so much.
No, I love it. So we're coming up on our time, but I want to briefly touch on the noise that's happening in the space of GLP-1s and then peptides join the chat. What is your take on that? Are you pro? Are you anti? What's your take? And yeah, that's really where I want to go with that, just to get your feedback.
I think it's a great topic. In my own program, we have about, I would say, 20 to 25% of our members are on one now. I don't teach them. I'm not the kind of person that, I'm not on the internet, like influencers, just, do this, do this. I don't have anything against them, though. I have watched it with my own members, help them with the food noise so that they can now do their emotional work. I think that's been, for the GLP-1s, I think that has been what I would find has been a lifesaver for so many of my emotional eaters. Because everybody that comes to me, they want to lose weight, but they're also an emotional eater at heart. We know it. I market that. I'm definitely trying to help people with what I call root cause problems. But, when they first came out, I was worried about it. I was like, I don't know about this. But I researched it. And started watching my members do it. I said, well, let me give you a private group. So I want to help y'all with this. I want to know what's going on with this. And what I found is it's just another thing that some women can use. But if you only use it like a diet, like typical diets, I have this thing where I talk about typical diets leave out two pieces of the puzzle for women. The first one is every woman's going to fuck up when they lose weight. Like you're just going to make mistakes. And there's a million reasons why it happens. And it's not your fault why it's like it's never because you're lazy or lacking willpower or not trying hard enough. It's always these emotional things that are going on, or you don't understand how long it takes for habits to kick in. There's such reasonable reasons. But if you can't tolerate messing up and all you do is quit, self-loathe, and eat your face off every single time, you can't lose weight. Diets aren't teaching women this piece. And they're not teaching them the reasons why this is even happening in the first place. And if you don't have that, and you don't fix those reasons why, and you don't fix the relationship with yourself, a GLP-1 may get your weight off, but it will not change if you're a people pleaser. It will not change you if you're a perfectionist. It will not change if you never think you're good enough. It will not change the 1,000 reasons why we eat that have nothing to do with food. And so I always tell people, if you're going to do those things, you owe it to yourself to give yourself the complete puzzle along the way. So I don't have a problem with GLP-1s at all. For the peptides, I think it's going to end up being the same thing. There are lots of peptides out there that I think they're different than the GLP-1s, but they're going to be an aid in losing the weight. Women just have to quit trying to figure out, how do I do XYZ to lose weight? Like, what should I eat? Whatever. There's plenty of things out there that we need to do for our health, but your mental health is a key piece of this too. Mental and emotional health have to be fixed along the way, or you will regain your weight. And especially if you're on a peptide, and especially if you're on a GLP-1, I think they said 1 in 20 people are now on one.
Wow.
1 in 20. I mean, that is astounding. And it's only going to get to be more as more of them are coming out and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so that means that most people taking it will not take it for the rest of their life. They will not be able to afford to do it for the rest of their life. So what's going to happen when you stop? If you didn't fix the reasons why you kept eating,
because you're going to gain it all back.
Yeah, I always say that the brain's a hoarder. It's the best hoarder in the world. If you went and looked in somebody's brain, it is packed to the gills with bullshit because your brain purges nothing. So if you have a history of eating to feel better and you're on a GLP-1, your brain's like, let me shove it in the corner underneath all of the, this other stuff. And then the second you come off one, it's like, what? We're having an emotional problem? Let me go back to this corner. I think I shoved all your emotional eating over here. And then it's like, voila, I brought it back out. Thank God I didn't throw that away. So we have to fix these things so that your brain doesn't go back to what it knows when you come off. So if people want to do it, I think it's great. If you can afford it, I think it's great. Just don't think that you're I'm only going to do this. If you are eating for other reasons, you owe it to yourself to fix the other things because you get a better life out of it.
100%.
And that's what people need. It's not just the weight loss. It's like if you fix how you feel about yourself, your life significantly improves.
Yeah, 100%. So I wrap up every single interview with the same question. But before we get there, how can people get more information from you? How can they join your community? What's all the good stuff?
I would first start with, I have a free course. Over 1 million women have been through this thing. Wow. It's been running for years now, and people still love it. It's nobsfreecourse.com. And that's where I would go. If you do that, I will teach you my basics. I will talk to you more about this stuff. My emails are always about this stuff. It will introduce you to my podcast, Losing 100 Pounds with Corinne. I always feel like this is the gateway. If you get in, you're going to get all up in my world, and I always tell people you'll be better off for it.
I love it. I love it. Easy enough and free, which is always a plus.
Free.
So
exactly.
make sure you guys go ahead and grab that if this is the support you need. Corinne, I wrap up every single interview with the same question since the show is called The Growth Now Movement. That question is, in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth?
Oh gosh. I just married my husband. I didn't think I'd get married. And it was really hard for me to trust that a man really loved me. So I had been through some rough relationships, and he is an eternal optimist. He is the first, like when I talk about, I never read a self development book. My husband is a natural at believing in yourself. Like he just literally sees the upside to everything. And I had never been around that. And I think just being willing to trust that he loved me, watching him and noticing how he sees the world so different and paying attention to that, I don't think I'd be where I am today without him.
He sounds like a really good man. You've talked about him a number of times in this interview, and it's always good. Like, my wife's incredible, and like my life is 10 times better because I met her. And when you find that partner, it changes everything for you,
It
uh,
does.
without a
100%.
doubt. But Corinne, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story and your wisdom with my audience. And most importantly, thank you so much for helping countless women take back their life. It's absolutely really inspiring. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you, Justin.